Escalation in the Middle East. The US military launches retaliatory strikes on Iran-linked targets in Syria and Iraq. Protests flare up in Europe as farmers rally against rising costs and climate policies. Pressure mounting as a live export ship with thousands of animals on board remains stuck in WA. And the Socceroos' Asian Cup dreams dashed after a heartbreaking loss to South Korea. Good evening, Briana Shepherd with ABC News. Nearly a week after 3 American soldiers were killed in a drone attack, the United States has responded. Washington has launched a series of retaliatory military strikes against Iranian and proxy forces in a sharp escalation that Joe Biden had sought to avoid since the war in Gaza broke out.
Unverified footage captures America's response to a deadly drone attack. This among 85 targets at 7 facilities said to have been hit.
3 of the facilities are in Iraq, 4 of them are in Syria. Numerous aircraft, including B-1 bombers dispatched from the United States, were involved in this operation, firing more than 125 precision-guided munitions over the course of about 30 minutes.
The US says the sites are used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force and their affiliates, who they say are involved in a recent surge of attacks on US personnel. Officials say they're still assessing the damage, but believe the operation has been a success. The strikes are retaliation for last weekend's attack on a base in Jordan. At the time, the president said it would not go unanswered. And he's warning there's more to come. Our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing. Let all those who might seek to do us harm know this. If you harm an American, we will respond.
The White House is trying to strike a delicate balance here. It wants to send a clear message to Iran that attacks by its affiliates on US troops won't be tolerated. Yet it doesn't want to hit with such force that Tehran feels compelled to retaliate.
3 service members were killed in the Jordan attack. Today, their remains were returned home. These ceremonies have become infrequent as the US seeks to extract itself from foreign wars. The reverberations from the war in Gaza now threatening to change that. Barbara Miller, ABC News, Washington.
The Iraqi government has described Washington's retaliatory strikes as a violation of its sovereignty. Syria is reporting a number of people have been killed. Here's more from Global Affairs editor John Lyons in Jerusalem.
This is certainly a major escalation in the Middle East. 85 different strikes in 2 different countries. This is the first time that the US has struck both Syria and Iraq simultaneously. The significance of this is that Washington has not hit Iran itself. It's hit Iran's proxies in Syria and Iraq. It's hit facilities connected to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They're the enforcers of the regime in Iran. The US is wanting to say to Iran, if you jeopardise any of our facilities in the Middle East, there will be reprisals. Both Syria and Iraq have said it's a breach of their sovereignty, and they've expressed their great concern about this. However, it's almost certain that in coming days there will be more reprisals by America, more strikes.
Farmers protesting high costs and climate policies have blocked the border between Belgium and the Netherlands as demonstrations spread across Europe. Convoys of tractors have gridlocked the centre of Paris for the past week, but after government concessions, blockades have now been lifted.
Steamrolling the heart of the European Union.
It's not just the environmental measures, it's the pressure which is on the backs of farmers.
As EU leaders voted to throw Ukraine an $82 billion lifeline, farmers angry over rising costs, falling profits and climate policies took their protest to the streets of Brussels.
No, it was not a success. They don't say anything to us. They did like were here. But I think it was clear that we are here.
As night fell, chaos erupted. Eggs were pelted at the European Parliament and bonfires lit. As the hours rolled on, the protests spread to Poland, Ireland, Malta and the Netherlands, where farmers blocked the border with Belgium.
We protested in the Netherlands last year and the Belgians came to assist us. Now they are protesting and we are in solidarity with them.
But in France, where the protest kicked off, a breakthrough after a week of blockades through the centre of Paris.
It's not our job to go and demonstrate, to block the roads, so we're really happy to be going back.
The French government agreed to concessions, including cash handouts and tax cuts.
I'm not completely satisfied. I'm a little sad. I still have big expectations for the coming weeks, months, to be sure that these are not empty promises.
A reprieve in France, but little progress elsewhere. Catherine Diss, ABC News, London.
The Federal Department of Agriculture is being urged to make a decision over the fate of thousands of Australian cattle and sheep stuck on a live export ship in WA. The animals have been on board the MV Bahija for 4 weeks after it was ordered to return from the Middle East amid security concerns in the region. The ship arrived back in Fremantle earlier this week. At the request of the exporter, several hundred cattle were unloaded from the ship last night and are being quarantined. But the department is still deciding whether to allow the remaining animals to be re-exported back to the Middle East via a different route, sparking concern for the welfare of the livestock.
Our concern is the cumulative effect on those animals' health. Sometimes there may not be overt signs of illness, but those animals are suffering, and the longer they're on that ship, the longer they suffer, more days, more deaths.
I have every confidence that that decision will be made in the right lens of protecting animal welfare and making sure that we protect our international reputation.
Two of Victoria's most popular summer holiday destinations are grappling with separate drownings in a horror day on the state's waters. The first happened early this morning on the Bellarine Peninsula, southwest of Melbourne, when a simple fishing trip turned deadly.
A boat upside down on the shoreline of Raff's Beach at Ocean Grove. Emergency services workers are on the sand. This is the scene of a summer tragedy.
So it's really sad. We saw the boat upturned earlier on. Yeah, it's tough. These are our people.
It's an absolute tragedy.
Two mates going for a fish took off in this tinny from Ocean Grove at 6:30 a.m. Less than 30 minutes later, they were in trouble.
They've headed out through the river mouth at Barwon Heads and come across some large waves. Unfortunately, the boat has capsized as a result.
Both men were in the water. A 61-year-old Moriac man managed to get on top of the boat. His mate, a 66-year-old from Anglesea, was trapped under the tinny.
We believe he was entangled in some rope or possibly the anchor roping, and he wasn't able to free himself, and the surviving fisherman wasn't able to assist him to get him out either.
3 members of the public on jet skis arrived a short time later. They brought the younger man to shore with only minor injuries. Sadly, the 66-year-old was unresponsive. He died at the scene, the 19th fatal drowning this summer.
Ocean Grove is a very safe, family-friendly beach, and for this to happen here, it's a tragedy all round.
Today, surf lifesavers were patrolling the river mouth at Barwon Heads. Conditions early this morning were choppy and the swell was larger than normal.
Because the water pools with the tides, it can get hard to negotiate at times.
It's a good tuna area that they have out here, so there's a lot of boats that were going out through the heads, but a lot of boats didn't want to go out because of the size of the waves.
Hours later, a scuba diver was pulled from the water at Rye on the Mornington Peninsula near the pier at 10 a.m. He was given CPR but couldn't be revived. As thousands are enjoying the warmer weather at Victoria's beaches and popular holiday spots, authorities are again at pains to emphasise you can never be too safe around the water.
It's just a reminder, obviously, this time of year, make sure you're wearing your life jackets, look after your friends and family out in the water. If there's lifeguards on duty, swim between the flags. A
plea for safety first. Mike Lorrigan, ABC News, Ocean Grove.
A mother and her son have been found dead inside an Adelaide home with a neighbour expected to be charged with their alleged murders. Police were called to the home in the northwestern suburb of Rosewater this afternoon after a family member discovered the bodies of a 76-year-old woman and a 55-year-old man. Officers arrested a 43-year-old man who was staying across the road and expect to charge him with 2 counts of murder. Police say the motivation for the attack remains unclear. Actor Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movie franchise, has died aged 76. Weathers shot to fame for his role as the cocky heavyweight champion opposite Sylvester Stallone. He is being remembered as an extraordinary athlete by his Predator co-star Arnold Schwarzenegger, while Adam Sandler, who Weathers appeared beside in the film Happy Gilmore, says he was a truly great man. In recent years, Weathers earned acclaim and an Emmy nomination for his role in the Mandalorian series. At least 10 people have died and hundreds have been evacuated as bushfires burn through central Chile. Strong winds are fanning rapidly expanding blazes across several regions, prompting the president to declare a state of emergency. Dramatic footage posted online shows dense smoke blanketing beaches in the popular Vina del Mar region. It comes as a heatwave and drought sweeps across the country. A fortnight after Taiwan elected a new pro-sovereignty president, its military has been conducting drills to show it will be on alert over the upcoming holidays. Chinese ships and planes operate around the island on a near daily basis, and it's expected activity could increase as the presidential inauguration in May approaches.
From the skies to the sea, Taiwan's military says it won't let its guard down. On an army base in the south, under a cloud of smoke, soldiers fight a mock enemy attack.
The ROC armed forces have to prepare ourselves very well in order to defend our hometown.
This exercise simulates what it might look like if one of China's regular drills around Taiwan turned into a sudden assault. It's taking place at a key time, only weeks after the island's elections, but also just before most Taiwanese go on holidays for the Lunar New Year.
Today's exercise includes tactical mobility, assault, and urban warfare.
On the opposite side of the island, sailors practice dropping sea mines. This naval base would be a key target in an invasion.
Our Navy and Marine Corps have already done all types of preparation work to be combat ready. People can feel safe to go on their holidays.
In the face of China's claims over the self-governed island, Taiwan buys billions of dollars worth of equipment and weapons from its most important military ally, the United States.
The training for the modernizations, as well as the interoperabilities and the communication with other friends and allies in the open water like Taiwan, those are all very important and aspects we need to improve.
While these exercises are centred on the island's defences over the Lunar New Year holiday period, the reality is the military is going to have to stay alert for many months yet, with Beijing expected to ramp up pressure on Taiwan ahead of the inauguration of the new president. Chinese state media warning recently that unless President-elect Lai Ching-te abandons the Taiwan independence path by May, the 4 years of his presidency will be precarious and unpredictable. A sign there is no rest on the horizon for these troops. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Kaohsiung, Taiwan.
A boy has been treated in hospital after being bitten by a dingo on Gari off the southern Queensland coast. The incident happened last night at the Bowl Creek camping ground. He suffered injuries to his lower abdomen and was taken from Kingfisher Bay to Harvey Bay in a stable condition. He's the third child to be bitten by a dingo on the World Heritage listed island since the start of the year. Ex-tropical cyclone Kirrily is continuing to bring heavy rainfall and damaging wind gusts in northwest Queensland. More than 150 millimetres fell near the Northern Territory border overnight, and extensive flooding has isolated communities. The system is expected to weaken in the coming days as another low intensifies in the Coral Sea and could develop into a cyclone late next week. It could make landfall between Mackay and Cairns.
If we do get a third coastal crossing over the Queensland coast, it would be the first time in about 5 years or so. So in 2018 to 2019, we had 4 coastal crossings.
About 4,000 children from remote Australia rely on boarding schools to finish their education. But even at more affordable schools, boarding fees are climbing. The federal government has offered a new scholarship to help, but only for a fraction of students from remote parts of the countries. Families say they urgently need more help to keep their kids in school. Stephen Schubert has this report from South Australia's Lamina station.
This is the last leg of a long trip for the Fennell family. Up their 64-kilometre long driveway off the Oodnadatta track to their home at Lamina Station in South Australia's far north.
Steve, your school shoes, are they still good, Dom? Yeah, they're still good.
The family's second child, 13-year-old Steve, has just made an almost 900-kilometre trip after his first year away from home.
Starting at boarding school, it's a very different change from going from living on a station to living like more in the city. There's lots of new people, like sport. I've never played sport until this year.
But while the tuition fees at his regional Catholic school are modest, the cost of boarding has grown significantly.
It's a massive financial pressure because apart from the school fees, you've also got the associated costs of the travel, which is extensive. The kids' boarding school is 900 kilometres away.
Data collected by the Isolated Children's Parents Association shows the average cost of boarding school has been growing over the last decade. 19% in New South Wales, 22% in Queensland, 18% in Western Australia and 74% in the Northern Territory. And while the federal government provides an allowance which increases in line with inflation, it hasn't kept pace with this rapid growth in costs.
From here at Lamina Station, it's a 5-hour drive to the nearest high school. That leaves two options: distance education or a boarding house.
Go and log on to your lesson, please, Eleanor.
The family's youngest child still attends School of the Air, learning remotely from home. She'll start boarding in 4 years.
I do want to go to boarding school so I can meet new people. Most of them will be my age.
You got perfect marks that time.
To help remote boarders, the federal government has introduced a new scholarship worth up to $20,000 a year. But there's only 70 of them and an estimated 4,000 children from remote Australia who rely on boarding schools.
I don't necessarily think it's quite fair how they're only giving out 70, because there's heaps of bush kids that might want it and might need it a lot more than me and other people that might have gotten it.
The Isolated Children's Parents Association wants an increase to the boarding allowance that all remote students can access, which they say would cost $16 million a year.
Essential workers who come to our rural and remote communities, such as nurses, policemen, teachers, once their children get to the age of high school, they usually pack up and leave because sending their children away to school is unaffordable.
In a statement, Assistant Minister for Education Anthony Chisholm said there had been significant demand for the new scholarship and the government will consider additional places in future years.
We live in Australia and everyone here is entitled to a decent education regardless of where they live.
The Fennell family say they don't expect a free ride, just an allowance that will keep up with the cost of living. Stephen Schubert, ABC News, Lamina Station.
A South Australian great-grandmother, believed to have been Australia's oldest living person, has died aged 111. Catharina van der Linden was born in the Netherlands in 1912 and migrated to Australia with her young family in 1955. She passed away peacefully on Australia Day, surrounded by family at Southern Cross Care's West Beach residential home. Mrs van der Linden is survived by her 4 children, 10 grandchildren and 16 great-grandchildren. She credited her longevity to her active lifestyle, which included multiple gym sessions and walks each week.
It is a remarkable life. My condolences to her family, but also what a blessing to have lived that long, to have seen so much, to have seen children grow up, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She's seen so much. She's seen the state just after Federation.
The town of Yass can be overshadowed by the national capital down the road, but it's quickly gaining a name for producing young boxers. A gym hidden away behind an unassuming home is not only developing athletes, but changing lives.
From the outside, this looks like a regular country home.
But as you walk down the driveway to the shed in the backyard, it quickly becomes obvious that it's so much more.
It's not just a boxing gym for me, it's a family.
The Valley Boxing Gym opened in 2020 and is now home to more than 70 boxers with varying levels of ability, from up-and-coming talent like Michaela Armstrong, who won the prestigious Jean Lewis belt in America late last year.
Angle now, angle now, angle!
I came out to Aaron and he's like, do you want to go in the ring? Do you want to go to the Olympics? And I'm like, yes, I want to go to the Olympics. And he's like, okay, that's your goal. And he's just like pushed me to my best.
On your arm to hurt. Back to your chin.
To kids with confidence or health issues, the local sergeant, and parents who unexpectedly want to join in on the action, like Max Miyok's mum.
It threw me off a little bit. She's always been a little bit sceptical of it, but yeah, she seems to enjoy it, so I'm really happy about that.
Max and his whole family, I hate to walk into that house in the middle of the night.
The coach has breathed new life into a community that didn't know it needed it.
Bit of a character, but I love him. It's like a second dad. He's taught me things that I never would have known without him. So if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would have been.
But the athletes have given him just as much.
I suffered. So just thought having something to give, you know, when you suffer from mental health, sometimes putting something above yourself gives you purpose. Not only am I helping them, they're helping me.
Anthea Moody, ABC News, Yass.
Time for sport with Tom Wildie. And Tom, it's all over for the Socceroos in Qatar.
They've crashed out of the Asian Cup, Brie, after a heartbreaking 2-1 extra-time loss to South Korea in the quarterfinals. Australia led late into stoppage time, but couldn't land a decisive blow.
Devastation, heartbreak from a Socceroos side that'll be left to wonder what if.
Pure disappointment at the moment. You know, we're 1 minute away from going through.
With a place in the semi-final on offer in Qatar, the Socceroos found the scoreboard first.
They might put this in! Good win again!
And it wasn't their only opportunity on goal. Australia generating shot after shot.
And he goes across the goal, and another brilliant chance.
It gets down to the individual to put the ball in the back of the net, and if you don't take those chances, you get punished.
That's exactly what happened 4 minutes into stoppage time.
Penalty. It is a penalty kick.
The equaliser sending the match into extra time where South Korea's captain stepped up.
It will be Son. It is stunning from Son Heung-min.
They're top quality players that they've got ended up getting the job done for them.
A late red card didn't help Australia's quest to force it to penalties, with South Korea avenging their 2015 Asian Cup final loss.
It's the first time in 17 games that we've lost after going up 1-0.
Arnold's young Socceroos bundled out in the quarter-final for the second consecutive time in the tournament.
That's the big thing at this moment, is what's next, who's next, and that's what I'm trying to do, to find, as well as trying to win games.
South Korea will play Jordan in the semis. Jessica Stewart, ABC News.
Perth Glory's men's side's unbeaten run is up to 3 games after a come-from-behind 4-2 win over Melbourne City at Perth Oval. City hit the front after 20 minutes when Alexander Sushnaz flicked a cross past his own goalkeeper. Glory hit back just after the break through Mustafa Amini's penalty, but City was back in front on the hour mark. Perth scored twice in quick succession to take a surprise lead before sealing the win in injury time when Joel Anasmo scored on debut. And Perth Glory's winless run in the A-League women's competition has stretched to 5 games after losing to Sydney FC 3-1 in Sydney. The Sky Blues scored a well-worked opener after 24 minutes and should have doubled their lead from the penalty spot, but were denied by Glory keeper Morgan Aquino. Perth made the most of the let-off, levelling the score after the half-hour mark. But there was nothing the Glory could do to stop Courtney Vine after the break. The Matildas' winger twice bursting down the right to put the ball in the net as the Sky Blues cruised to victory. Australia has thrashed South Africa by 8 wickets in the first women's one-day international at Adelaide Oval. The Proteas were bowled out for just 105, with star all-rounder Marizanne Kapp making 50 before she retired hurt after being struck by a ball while running between wickets. Alana King was the pick of Australia's bowlers, claiming 3 wickets. Beth Mooney then smashed an unbeaten half-century off just 34 deliveries as Australia reached its target in just 19 overs. The Perth Heat's bid for the Australian Baseball League Championship looks set to go to a third and deciding game tomorrow. The Giants lead tonight's second match 5-3 with just 1 inning left to play in Adelaide after the Heat's dramatic victory in the series opener in Perth last night. The Heat was on top early, thrilling the home fans as Tim Kennelly's drive gave it a 3-run lead. But the Giants weren't done with Quincy Lattimore belting a double as the visitors tied the game. The contest went into extra innings and Perth was able to score the winning run in a marathon match which lasted more than 4 hours. And Bree, that is the latest in sport.
Thank you, Tom. Well, it was cooler than previous days, but still hot and humid. A couple of milder ones ahead before the heat is set to return. Right now in town, it's 24 degrees and humidity is 64%. Perth dropped to 23 just before 6 o'clock this morning, rising to a top of 32.5 around 11:45. The state's coolest spot was Eucla with a minimum of 12 degrees. The state's highest maximum of 46 reached at Marble Bar. Patchy cloud over the northwest with a trough is generating some showers and thunderstorms. Generally clearer skies elsewhere with a hot and dry air mass and high pressure. On the synoptic, a deep heat trough moving east over the Gascoyne and Goldfields should pass into South Australia by tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, the northern end of a weak cold front is crossing the southwest corner, bringing those cooler temperatures, with a new trough expected to deepen down the west coast around midweek, bringing back heat to the area. A quick look around the country's capitals tomorrow. Sunny and hot days set for Adelaide, Melbourne and Canberra. Temperatures in the mid to high 30s. Some cloud about for Sydney and Brisbane. Tops of 32 with a possible shower, and 33 set for Darwin. Back to WA and in the north, chance of showers and gusty thunderstorms over the inland Kimberley. Fresh and gusty winds about coastal parts of the Pilbara. Very hot from the inland Pilbara through the interior. Fresh and gusty winds about coastal parts of the Gascoyne, Southwest Land Division and throughout the Eucla and South Interior. Chance of showers over southern coastal districts east of Windy Harbour. Cooler conditions in the east and southwest Land Division, southern Goldfields and Eucla. In Perth, cloud clearing, a top of 27 after an overnight low of 15. Sunrise will be at 17 minutes to 6, setting at 16 past 7. And looking ahead, a cooler one for Monday with a top of 28 before it's set to heat up again the second half of the week. Quite hot for Perth, a top of 41 set for Friday. And finally tonight, formal volunteering numbers have been in decline over the past few years, but a small life-saving club on the far south coast of New South Wales has found a way to buck that trend. A change in how they roster volunteers has had profound effects, and now others are following suit.
6 years ago, this small-town surf life-saving club was dangerously understaffed.
We were having a lot of trouble meeting our patrol obligations here on the beach.
But a simple roster change has almost quadrupled their volunteer numbers.
We were so surprised at how successful it was. It essentially left us with no gaps.
The Bermagui Club now lets members choose when they patrol.
With the roster, I got to choose my dates that I preferred, so I made sure that most of my patrols were during the school breaks.
The retention's much higher too, because if people have been given a choice about the times that work for them, then they're far more likely to be there as well.
Formal volunteering numbers have been on a downward trend Australia-wide since 2019. Between 2020 and 2023, rates across New South Wales declined by more than 5%.
Bermagui was the first surf life-saving club in the state to let volunteers choose when they patrol. Other clubs have since adopted the change.
Organisations that are successful are the ones that are willing to be flexible with what they expect from their volunteers.
Advocates are certain that the motivation to volunteer is as strong as ever.
Our research shows us that the number one reason people want to be involved is to help. So people are out there, they want to help. It's just a matter of finding a way to utilise them and keep everyone happy.
And this little surf life-saving club has found a way to do just that. Floss Adams, ABC News, Bermagui.
And that's ABC News for this Saturday evening. Tom and I will be back with you tomorrow. In the meantime, you can stay up to date with ABC News online, or you can catch up anytime on ABC iView. It's been a pleasure having your company. Take care and bye for now.